Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
And here we are in the lovely, lush, green jungle. It's nice, isn't it? It's so green.
So green and knotty.
Knotty?
Yeah, those knotweeds.
Oh, yeah, and the wolf weeds and stuff all around here.
Wolf weeds.
Nice. Yeah.
Knotweeds. Wolf weeds.
I've just realised I'm wearing green today as well. Like, I'm the creature from the pit.
Oh, you're the creature.
Okay, let's go straight into it because I want to know what you think of this one. Because this obviously is quite well known for having quite a bad monster design.
Yeah.
And all I got from you was a picture of it, WTF, yesterday.
Well, it was more that, like, out of nowhere, its little wiener comes out, and then the doctor's like blowing into it, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why is he giving it a blowjob?" That's what I want to know.
Okay, well let's start from the beginning. How did you watch this?
Painfully. I was supposed to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Friday went and I hadn't watched it. So I was like, Saturday. Okay, Saturday night is going to be the night that I watch this. But I'll spread it out. And then I started watching on Netflix, what's it called? Animal Park.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
So it's on BBC Two, and it's at Longleat.
Oh,
You'd love it, Mark. It's right up your street. So
yeah.
They're following Longleat Zoo, and it's just about that. And it's a BBC thing. It's normally on like during the day on BBC Two, but for whatever reason, it's on Netflix at the minute. And I was like, Animal Park. I'll do one of these, and then I'll intersperse like between one episode of Doctor Who, one episode of Animal Park. And I did one episode of Animal Park and fell asleep for 3 hours. I was just so exhausted. And then I woke up and it was like 10 o'clock and I was like, shit, I have to watch Doctor Who. So, and I also knew that I wouldn't get a chance on Sunday to watch it because we were recording. I had work and then we were coming straight into recording. So I was like, shit, I have to watch this. I have no option but to watch this now. So at like 7:15, by the time I'd woke myself up, like, come on, psyched myself into it, I started watching it. And I had to do all 4 because I had no choice.
Oh no, not the best way to start
Not
a
the
Doctor
best
Who
way.
story.
Off after like a 3-hour nap, accidental nap. So with great difficulty, I watched this. And I don't know how much I've remembered. Because normally how we do it is I'll have watched it in bits, whatever, and then I watched the last one just before we start recording, but I knew that wasn't an option today. And I'm not really sure how much of it I took in, particularly the first episode or 2. Like, I watched it, but I remember thinking, oh, I might have to read something on this which I also haven't done, but I remember thinking I might have to read something because I'm not actually sure how much of this I'm actually, either I'm just not taking it in or I'm so tired I'm not taking it in.
Okay, well, we'll try and jog your memory.
It was all unintentional, and I apologise, but that's the way it went. That's how it was for me. How was it for you?
Yeah, I've pretty much watched it all in one go today. It's not one that I've watched many times, so before I wouldn't have really been able to tell you that much about it, apart from it's got that green blob thing in it. Because it's been a bit like, it's not I wouldn't say this whole season has been one of my favourites. Because of that lighter tone, I like it a little bit more. I don't know, when you go back to the Doctor, with beginning with Leela, and there was like danger, and he was really like sort of, you knew there was a danger, he was really serious. Here, it felt like literally every other line was a sarcastic joke or a flippant remark or something. And I was watching it today thinking, oh, I wish he just had a little bit more of that danger. Because then when it's all flippant remarks, it doesn't have that seriousness to it. I mean, everyone is taking it seriously. They're acting it seriously.
Yeah.
But that sense of danger isn't there where it sort of used to be. and then you add in the big blob that doesn't work, and then it feels a little bit more children-like and a bit more silly. But it's still fun and entertaining, and I have really enjoyed this, and I followed the story really well this time.
But I wonder as well, this was something else I was thinking about in terms of, I host quizzes, and I was talking to someone that I do a Doctor Who quiz, and they were a Doctor Who fan, and they said, who's your favourite Doctor? I was like, well, I can only say so far who's my favourite Doctor. And I was like, I think it would be Patrick Troughton still, because I just think he was such a brilliant actor. He was so fantastic. And it's not that I didn't enjoy the others, like, after or anything, like, but he was so strong throughout that I know there was some brilliant character moments that I was just like, he's brilliant. And this person was like, oh, for me, it's the first Doctor. I was like, that's really interesting. And so we're talking about that. And I think there's something around, for me, this season feels like a comfort blanket season. So, like how I was saying previously, like, I think it's usually around January I start watching Gilmore Girls. And there's just something very familiar about it. And there's a little bit of sense of drama, but it's harmless otherwise. And I can just enjoy it. I can just sit back and be like, I know that I'm just going to have a nice adventure, and I can just enjoy what I see, the acting that I see, and I feel that is this season. I know we're not that far into it yet for me to be making that, but this feels a little bit like a comfort blanket season. It feels like a season that is more, like you say, the acting isn't bad. Like, no one's acting poorly. All right, there isn't the danger and threat, but if you just like, do you know what? I just want something that I can just enjoy, that I can just like know and feel great with. And I feel that's this season a little bit. And the last season, there was something about the familiarity of knowing with the keys what was happening that gives you that sense of, and I feel that's maybe where things are at the minute, in terms of, we haven't got like the danger, we haven't got that threat in the same way. We've not had anything really graphic like we have for a while. That's not to say anything's bad, though. There's just something really like, there's like a nostalgia. Even though I'm watching this for the first time, there's a really odd nostalgia to it.
Yeah, because I've always thought of this season as a bit cheaper again, and been a bit harsh on the production stuff. But we start off in this, the jungle, I mean, we've had a lot of jungles in Doctor Who. The difference, I didn't realise how much is done on film. I don't know if you noticed the quality. And I think that adds a bit more, something else to it, a bit of atmosphere to it. If that was all brightly lit in a studio, I don't think I would have enjoyed this as much. I know that's like a production thing. I'm always harsh on production. I can't help it. but
that's really interesting, because I've never felt that this season's cheap.
Well, I mean, I know they're in Paris last week and stuff, but I mean,
exactly. And like, I've noticed so far, there's nothing that's made me think there's scrimping. I think we've had like poor monsters as an example here. They're not always going to be a hit. They're just not. And I prefer something like this to just a glowy blob.
What do you mean? Something like?
Like, I prefer something like we had today.
The lighthouse one.
Yeah, to just a glowy blob. Like, I prefer something that's actually visible and trying to be something than just a light effect or green screen thing, I much prefer that, because there's a sense of at least something, even if it's not wonderful, because how, like, every week having to come up with something new, it's not always going to be wonderful.
No, I actually didn't think it was as bad watching this. The green blob and everything, I quite liked the green blob in the end. But let's start at the beginning with...
Yes! Let's start at the very beginning.
So actually, this is the first one that they filmed of this season. So you've got Romana and the Doctor in the TARDIS. And let's just close watch a minute. Romana's outfit in sort of
she's
the
in
white...
that white thing with the belt.
So she's got the white thing on, a bit flowy, and she's got a lot of makeup on this time. And I think what happened was, this first one that she's done, they're trying to make her like the other Romana. The other Romana wore white flowy things. Yeah. And I mean, previously she's had, the second Romana has had the pink coat and then the schoolgirl outfit. She's got her own sense of style, but we've sort of reverted back for this one, so you can really tell it's the first one they filmed because she's trying to be like the other Romana, and this is the first time she's got a full load of makeup on. It doesn't suit her. I think she looks pretty terrible. It's just not her. It's the other one. So, and she's got that apron thing on the beginning. I was like, what is she wearing? What has happened compared to previous weeks? So it's not a good outfit for her, especially going through that jungle and stuff.
No, it was an odd choice for where she was, actually. Yeah, I did feel that. Although it did help in terms of her standing out. So it worked in terms of that. And other Romana worked that way as well. Can we talk about K9?
Yes, K9 is back. Good or bad?
No.
Oh no, is it the new voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different actor with the
It
voice.
just feels really trying.
But you like K9.
As in, like, I'm trying to be. I think what I liked about K9 was there was almost like a sarcastic element to K9. Sort of like I know I'm clever and I don't even need to try. Sort of thing, like, and he'd have those comments of like, of course, like, like negative. That is not what. And I don't know. There was something sort of like very dry about that I liked. This voice feels very much like it's trying to fit in and trying really hard.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was so much K9 in this, and he's quite a big part of the plot throughout, and he's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, it's really different, and I'm just not on board with it. Yeah, it's really different.
It's not just the voice change, it's the characterisation as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Because the voice is the character, and for whatever reason, it just feels like when I first heard it, I was like, it sounds way too energetic. And I don't know whether that's like a little bit of script as well. You know, the script obviously is different people doing it, whatever. But yeah, it just didn't feel the same. And the whole character of K9 felt completely different to what we've had. There was this real dryness to K9 that I enjoyed. This sort of the character that sort of knew that how clever it was, but didn't even need to say it. Would say in these moments of like to the doctor of like negative, you're wrong, sort of thing. And I quite liked that. And almost didn't say much. Whereas this was loads of dialogue, and I don't know. I wasn't a fan. I've blabbered on a lot about that.
No, I know what you mean. It takes some getting used to. Let's see if we get used to different K9 going forward. But he was used as pretty much as a gun quite a lot in this as well. It's nice that he is in part of the plot though, and he was because he's metal, and there was all of that, and then he had quite a few of the answers for things. So I'm glad that they've written him in now, not just left him in the TARDIS all the time.
Oh, yeah. And, like, I agree with that. But even then, like, just to use him as a gun, that's what we were doing when we first had K9. He's walking around blasting things.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens with K9. Anyway, so we've got the new voice. And we've got, in the jungle, so you've got Lady Adastra, and then you've got that older lady that's sort of her lady in waiting. So that old lady's been in Doctor Who before.
Go on.
She is Old Mother in the very first Caveman story.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh. Wow, okay.
Who looks just as old in this, however many years, like 17 years later. So she's the one, she was, I don't know, Zal's mother or whatever. The old mother, she got killed, didn't she, in the Cave of Skulls? Yeah. And here she is again, back again, playing pretty much exactly the same kind of character in a way.
That is one thing I did enjoy about this. I loved having, and I do love having a female villain.
We've had quite a few recently, haven't we?
Yeah. I love a powerful female villain.
But Adastra, is she a bit panto in this? Do you think, in terms of how she played it?
And the makeup doesn't help.
There was one point, I think it was in part 3, where they're all in the caves and she walks in and it's literally like she's walked in on, you know, the villain on the side of a panto. She sort of just strolls in, I'm here. But I did like her, and I think I appreciated that level of energy.
It needed because no one else brought that. There were no other characters that were bringing, and I guess she was bringing that level of energy for some sense of power.
Well, because you don't really see much of. We're told that this is like a whole like jungle planet, and there's no metal. That becomes more and more important because they can't make tools to do like farming and make cultivate the land and stuff. So she's what? She is like head of that area, or it's strange you don't get to see the whole planet. There's just her and a few guards and everything. Obviously, budget and stuff, and maybe we don't need to see all that. I always say that we don't see enough of all the planet and everything. And I don't know what I'm expecting when I say that, but there's no other sort of royalty or whoever she's supposed to be. I don't know. You don't.
Yeah,
do you need...
This is, I think, where I struggled following it a little because of just what you've said. Like, very early on, we're introduced, they're split up and we're introduced to the people, as it were.
Yeah.
And you've got, and they swap around a lot. And I was just like, I found it quite confusing. And I don't, again, it could have just been because I'd woken up from a 3-hour nap. But actually, can we talk about the, what were they? The men.
Well, like the savages or the bandits people. Yeah.
I really wanted more from that storyline. And I think either they needed to not be in or there needed to be more from them.
Well, you needed people to show that like you say, they are the people that are desperate for the metal. They need to be in it so they can come and, because they've started to steal the stuff for later on, don't they? To steal that communicator thing, or for somewhere for Romana to go. Yeah, you don't get to see. But then equally, if
you didn't have them, you could have had, for example, the Doctor or Romana convincing that guard that something's not right, and he feels that nervous, and he ends up going along with them to try and work things out. You didn't. I just felt like there could have either been more from them, and they were really early on. They're really involved, and I was like, okay, so these are our like 2 tribe things that we're gonna, and then they are pretty. All we ever see is then they get into the palace, they rob some things, and then they end up in the pit. I don't even know. They went through a door and they were in the pit. I don't even know how they ended up in the pit. They then became so independent that I was just kind of like, I wasn't feeling it.
No, the look though, he looked like the guy from Keys of Mariners that captures Barbara in the cabin.
Yeah, they looked great, and it either needed more or not at all for me.
Yeah, because you don't really get a sense of what have they got a camp like right here. It
was so one-dimensional.
House here, or like so where is everything?
Of just, we want metal. Oh, the palace will be empty. We'll get metal. Like, it was a really, and then that's all the characters were like, these scrounger people getting metal that just happen, then just stumble into the pit, and we're carrying it at the right time. Like, it just felt too, it just felt really a simple, one-sided thing. And I would have much preferred, because there was a lot of the Doctor figuring out, and I think I'd have preferred if the Doctor had got out and met them and convinced them that this is how we're going to like help not overthrow, or help me overthrow. We're going to go in and we're going to take this, and they had an interest because of the metal, whatever, or they weren't in it at all, and which is what we love when someone turns from the bad to the good. And we had one of the, like he did later when he was like, no, I want to listen to them. If we'd have had him, they'd have convinced him. He's listened to what they're saying, and he's like, no, maybe they are saying something right. I'm going to, this has been going on for a long time and nothing's changed. Maybe you're new and you're saying things. Maybe I'll listen to you. We'll try and listen to what you say for a bit.
But I quite like how when Romana's captured and they've got the metal and stuff, there's all these talks of metal as us, the audience, know about. Okay, it's precious metal. Are they just like bandits that are just getting gold and, all that kind of stuff? But then it gets more and more, as things are explained, it is sort of woven in quite well how this world doesn't have that and things like that. I think that's quite well done. It's not totally obvious straight away. So you are wondering, okay, why are they so keen on getting metal and everything? And then when she gets the dog, they want to take K9 apart and stuff for it, and it gets more and more as you go through until it's explained. So I do quite like that, and with Adastra as well, she knows so much more than she's letting on. And it's not till like part 3 that we actually find out she knows everything that's been going on this whole time.
Yeah,
Because
it's right at the end. It was like end of part 3 into part 4.
Yeah, so I do quite like how, in terms of the storytelling, isn't always totally obvious straight away, and it does keep you guessing. Because I hadn't watched this properly all the way through, because I probably got bored previously. I was concentrating on the story, and actually I was enjoying sort of finding out who knew what and why. I quite like, the whip guy. In his black.
In all black.
In that thick. There was a jacket. This was years and years ago. There was a really nice jacket in Zara that I really wanted to get.
You told me about this jacket. You've told me about this jacket.
I don't know why I keep thinking about this jacket. It would not have suited me at all. But it looked like it was made out of that material, but with like a gold zip.
Yeah,
it
you've
looked
told
like
me
that.
I remember you telling me about this jacket.
Never seen it again. It's not available now. I don't know, but it would never have suited me. I don't know why I wanted this jacket, but it looked like that. So I was like, oh, he's wearing my jacket.
Your non-existent jacket.
Yeah. What do you think of the wolf weeds that we see? Because he's whipping them and as their little pets.
I actually thought they were quite inventive.
You sort of go from like, oh, that's really silly, to, oh, actually, that's quite good.
Quite clever. Like, it takes the idea of like the cowboys. Do you know what I mean? Of like, well, it does, doesn't it? Like the tumbleweed, and he's whipping it like if it was like a cowboy with a horse or something, and it gives a sort of a westerny sort of vibe to that. I felt they could have played on that a bit more.
I didn't really think of Western when I thought of it. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just really, like, I don't know how they understand when you like whip them, like they all sort of go into line and go around. And
I thought they were a really clever idea.
It fits in with the planet and the blob and this sort of world that we're in. They sort of blend in well with this jungle. And it's not what you're expecting when they sort of pin the Doctor down, and they pin K9 down quite a lot.
I can work out what they cover him in. Web.
It's like web stuff. Yeah, it must like grow like web stuff over him. But yeah, it just fits in, and it's a cheap way of doing it. I think they were just radio control things inside these bits of blob. So no, I think they were good. I
did. I thought they were quite a clever. They fit well within the world and the environment. It's not something we've seen before in terms of the look. And they come up enough, and it's just, I think as soon as you see the Doctor get attacked, you have a very clear sense of what they are and what they do.
I like that beginning, because he's looking at the egg and he sort of looks around and they're getting closer, then he looks away and then looks around. It's done sort of for comedy to begin with. Yeah, I just really enjoyed the whole first episode.
I really struggled with 1 and 2. That's very interesting.
Well, that end of part 1, because we've seen this pit and we've seen at the beginning people falling down the pit, just skipping ahead, and the way the Doctor's like, yep, I'm gonna go, and just jumps down, that was quite a good cliffhanger, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I was sort of looking through thinking, okay, when is this gonna get suddenly cheap and I'm gonna go off this? And I did all of part 1 and I was like, okay, it's really good so far, it looks good, I'm covering the story, it's fine. The Doctor jumps down. Okay, it's a little bit silly because he's just holding on after. I don't think that really, the way that he jumped in and the way that then you see next time that he's holding on. I don't know, reading the books and stuff, I feel that's again a bit, because he was reading that book in the first one, Destiny of the Daleks, when the rock fell on him. I feel like that's Douglas Adams writing that in, that kind of stuff. And he's talking to himself down the pit, and obviously they're going to hear him or see him. But again, because it's done on film as well, and you've got the angles and everything, I think it looks quite realistic. I quite
liked, though, again, that he was hanging there and no one's even looked to check that he's gone into the pit. I just thought that was just very. Then she's going, can we not just check? And they're going, no. And he's just hanging there. But I agree, the way that he went in versus him hanging. But then I guess, yeah, it made sort of sense, but.
And then whenever we've seen people go in there's that green light, and it's quite mysterious, and you're like, what is it? And you'll just hear the noise and see the light, and it's only sort of halfway through part 2. That's when the monster actually appears, and that is where you're either going to love the story or think it's really silly. I just don't. It didn't need the thing hanging out of it, did it? It didn't really need its arms thing. If it was just
It
the
did not
blob
need whatever his
round,
arms were, or what I called its hard on.
it just didn't need that. I don't know what it didn't need it, did it? It could just be the blob coming through. As it was like a big sort of cushion thing.
Yeah, it could have just been a round thing. It could have just been a round blow up, which it obviously was. Blob.
I mean, that shot when it's like massive, because we only see a bit of it, don't we? That's quite very well done. But it's just, I suppose it pins the Doctor. It's supposed to sort of pin the Doctor, but it could just sort of squash him up. That's the only thing that's wrong with it. And I think everyone's
It needs lots of things sticking out of it, rather than just two.
That might be the problem. It feels like that was just added on extra. Oh, let's just add this. And it's like, oh, but we've run out of time. We've run out of money. But yeah, everybody's like, oh, it's that terrible monster. But if you just get past it, it's just one appendage from being a good story.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's one thing. What I really liked about this, and this is going ahead a bit, when the Doctor's trying to communicate, it's this blob thing. And you sort of feel some sympathy for it because it's not a bad monster. And that whole scene, the best bit of this whole story is when the Doctor's having that chat, trying to communicate.
Yes, I agree.
Discovering another alien creature, and it's not just it's a monster, get rid of it or shoot it or it's going to attack me. He's having an actual trying to communicate with an alien life force. It's a bit sort of Star Trek-y, I suppose, new life and new civilizations and stuff.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed that.
I liked that there was a time for that they gave the time of the Doctor trying to work out, like trying to humanize with something that is showing no conversation, that has been seen as the enemy throughout. I mean, whatever is down there is killing people. That's all we know, So it's been shown as the enemy, and I really liked that, and I liked how he was openly trying to justify, well, you haven't killed me yet,
and I
from
can
that one-sided thing.
I can see Tom Baker enjoying doing that, thinking, oh, the kids at home are going to really enjoy this as well. You can see that in his performance, and it's just him. I just think he's really loving doing that kind of thing, and that's him as the Doctor, being that kind of character. That's a very Doctor thing to be, and that's when, it's not all that silly. I mean, yeah, it's done a little bit humorously as well. But it's not over the top silly. It's believable as the Doctor doing that.
There's some real heart to that scene as well. There's some real heart, which is the point of the Doctor in the moments of everything. He always considers life.
Yeah, that's
even
what
his life that can't communicate with him and has no. And he's really trying to communicate with it and work it out, even if it looks like he's giving it a blowjob.
Yeah, I know. But I think that's him being silly as well, and probably
he probably knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Oh, and we see this astrologer guy. Oh, I need to look up his name because I've forgotten his name.
I liked him.
Organon,
I think it was.
I don't know. I don't think it's believable. He's been living down there for a couple of years. Apparently, he got thrown down there.
Quite liked that. I did. So I liked it in terms of, because we meet him first, and I think it's a first indication if someone's been able to live there, that maybe it's not just something that kills. Like, it's a first sign of, like, it's not what it seems. You're not just going in a pit and you die, because someone's obviously been able to live down there for a while. And he even says, like, well, it's just left me alone. The only thing that annoyed me about him was later on when he was having a huff about the fact that the Doctor said that he could die.
Yeah, while he's eating his chicken wing.
Yeah. That was the only thing. I was like, what? Like, has this, like, come on, think of your situation. He wasn't putting you up, like, and she's like, no, he wasn't. Like, what are you talking about? That's the only bit that annoyed me. But the rest of the time, I really, like, up until then, I really enjoyed him as a character, as sort of like this guy that's obviously seen all this happening, kind of like
Binro.
Binro. but no one's believed him. Or, he's correct, so she's chucked him in because he's telling the truth.
Oh, she literally just chucks everybody in that pit that doesn't agree with her.
Yeah. Or could be saying something that's true and doesn't want it out. So in you go.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Romana and Adastra and K9 are having all that sort of interrogation. Romana gets slapped by Adastra. She gives her a proper slap. It's like, oh my God. And so there's this whole thing with, this is where K9 comes into it more. I was still enjoying it. I was just like, okay, what's going to happen now? It was slowing down a little bit in terms of plot because I just wanted to get to I just wanted to know what the blob wanted and what was going on with the blob.
Because
I really
the
love
blob was pretty much all of 3, wasn't it?
A lot of it, yeah.
I'm trying to remember when the Doctor didn't meet the blob until episode 3.
No, episode 2. I've got
episode
here.
2. Yeah, met the blob.
But the Doctor's attacked by the blob at the end of 2. It comes.
Oh, that was it.
And then it comes, and they don't have a conversation. Oh, it's much later for the conversation, yeah. Because in episode 3, the cave's shut, and it's just this eggshell.
I meant the conversation we were talking about where he's trying to communicate.
Oh yeah, that was 3.
In 3. Yeah. And then 4 was when they have the thing to communicate.
Yeah. And I liked how we've seen that at the beginning, that shield thing, and she's like, oh yeah, I've had that for ages. And it becomes really important later on. And this is when you have to have the bandits, because they have to come in. Everybody's out at Ad Astra's house, so that's why they can come in. Like, there's nobody around or whatever. They just come in and raid it.
At all. And this, I think, annoyed me more than anything. How are people getting in this pit so easily?
Exactly, because they throw everyone down the pit and you think, oh, that's the only way in. And then Ad Astra and that, they're like, right, come on, guards, everyone, we're going down the pit. They're all in and out this pit. So I don't know how...
That literally, it grinded my gears more than anything. Like, I was just like, everyone's just going for a door and they're in this pit. Like, these guys literally to escape, they went for another door and they were in the pit. Like, I do not understand.
All those people that have been... I mean, what's his name? That astrologer guy. He's been down there for years. He could have walked out with them.
Like, I do not understand how... Like, I wanted to see people go in the pit. I wanted to see, like, a lad just be like, okay, well, we're going to go in and get things out. And then those guys be stuck and be like, we're going to have to go down here to get out.
Maybe that is the only... No, that can't be the only way. Because
they go through doors. Everyone goes through doors. Even that woman, the old lady, when she escapes, she goes back up and then she's in the house. I'm like, how has she got in? She's nowhere near the pit. I don't understand. That is my biggest frustration with this entire story.
Why do the bandits... They get all their loot and then they go down the pit with it, don't they? And they're like, oh, we've got all this stuff.
And they say something about how they're trapped. They can't go that way because there's some people there. But they don't go down the pit. They go through like another door. They go, let's go this way. And then they're in the pit. Like, and now when I saw them walking through the thing, I was like, what the fuck? Talk about, like, literally your whole purpose has been for the timing of this. But I'd have believed it more if earlier on we'd have seen people going into the pit, like, okay, we're putting ladders down, we're going to all go into the pit. And then they would felt trapped in that room and they're like, we've got to get out of here, quick, let's go here, there's some ladders, let's go down here. Everyone's just walking through doors into the pit. Where are these doors?
Well, how do they get the blob out of the pit? They're like, oh, we've got him out now. They're like, right, we'll get you out.
That's the thing. The blob could have got out at any point, it turns out. Because when they're talking to the blob, it's there at the door.
No, well, they say, when they've talked to Erato and everything, they're like, right, we'll pulley you out, we'll get you out. And then they're like, okay, yeah, our guys have got him out now. And then he comes to the door. Yeah,
they do pulley. I was going to say.
They say we'll get you out, we'll pull you out the pit. But I don't know how, because you see how big it was when they were like really small, when it was like massive. I don't know how they get that whole thing out there. And I like how when it's at the door, it's sort of at the window.
Surely through the pit. That's why the pit was made and it was dropped in. I'm so confused by it. It's not through the door.
But that pit is really small. That is like a little rectangle. That blob isn't coming out of that pit. There must be somewhere else.
So many questions.
I mean, if you call it Creature from the Pit, you need to work out the pit. How do you get in and out of the pit? How big is the pit?
How does everyone else get in the pit?
Yeah, we need like a full background of this pit.
I need a map of that place. That's what I need. I need someone to send me a map so I can work out the logistics of entrances in and out of the pit.
I like when they do talk to the blob, it's whoever's voice is holding it and they've got to hold the thing. So everybody gets a turn at doing the voice. I quite like
I liked how they used her voice to prove that she was wrong. Or like, well, if it's coming out of your mouth, sort of thing. Again, I thought that was quite fun and clever.
And then when it's revealed that she knows everything that's been going on and it landed in peace and she threw it down the pit and everything because she wants the monopoly on money, metal. She gives it away, doesn't she? There's a couple of... She's like, no, it can't speak, or you don't want to... There's something... There's a few lines there just before we find out. But that end of episode 3, when it's coming towards her and she's like, no, and it goes on that she's on her for ages. That end of episode acting, I mean, all full credit for her for going way over that. She's like, no, like, waiting for someone to say cut.
I really did laugh. She really does not want to touch it, but then her hand very slowly would go on it each time with the doctor's help. She was not fighting it that hard. She knew what she had to do. I don't know. I found the whole balance of that quite funny.
It's a bit harsh when it kills her, though.
I couldn't work out what killed her. I think the metal things, what they called again?
Wolfweeds.
I think the wolfweeds kill her. And the blob eats the wolfweeds because it said something about, I've not had... Because I think they attack her because then they're gone and the blob eats the wolfweeds. Because he said, I've not had that much whatever for a long time.
That's his first meal, yeah. And he said he doesn't eat humans. But then when she dies and Whipman takes over...
I'm giving it a gender. I mean, it's not gender.
It's Erato. We'll say Erato.
Erato the blob. It's because it doesn't have a gender, does it, that we know of?
Oh, I really love Erato. It's like an Alpha Centauri sort of.
It really is.
I'd love to have a chat to Erato. I would have Erato round and Alpha Centauri. We'd all have they get on so well.
I'm going to look up about
Erato.
Yeah.
It's probably going to say it's a blob.
Probably, but
Erato.
So I read oregano or whatever his name as oregano then. Erato, right, here we are.
It says he in the TARDIS wiki.
It does say he. The phallic appearance, here we go, this is what I was talking about before. The phallic appearance of Erato's proboscis forced an overnight addition of pincers to the prop following bouts of uncontrolled laughter in the studio.
Oh, I see. So they had
just
it
one.
Had a pincer. It had one bit. It had one bit, and then they added this pincer bit after to make it less, but it doesn't really help.
No, it just looks like he's doing a blowjob.
No, but I'm all for us. And it wasn't bad, really. It sent out that signal. I know that star thing was going to come and destroy the whole planet, but it couldn't help it. It just sent out a distress. I mean, it was thrown down a pit for 15 years. And it was just put out a distress signal. It's not its fault. It wasn't bad. And it does try and help. And it could have gone bad and been like, right, I'm going. You're all going to die. But it stayed to help. And we have that whole ending. Because actually, in episode 4, we get all the explanation and everything. And I was thinking, well, we've got loads of episode left. What's going to happen now? And there's quite a bit more to go with all the spaceship stuff.
It did make sense that he was like, well, I've not returned. They're going to take that as a... of course, it's been gone for 12 years. So it does make sense that something like that, rather than just well, off we go. Okay, should we start? The whole episode's just them just having an agreement, negotiation.
But yeah, so this is where I don't understand with the hierarchy of the planet. So Ad Astra's gone, and Whipman is now next in line. Where is everybody else? Where is the rest?
I think it was Whipman and Sorcerer. I think they obviously just must be they were who were left because they both seem to be there. He was like, I see a tall, dark And then,
that's all a bit silly. Does he actually have powers or not? Because I think it's
I guess
supposed to
if
be
he's
a bit.
returned, and he must have had some sort of power as a sorcerer to be able to see what was coming and stuff, and all his predictions were true. So I guess within the society, he must have been of some level.
Yeah, I mean,
And I guess it's more of a society rather than like a hierarchy that we know in terms of like royalty. Maybe it is a society that is based more on like, well, if someone steps up with the knowledge of like how to give the society function and form, okay, well, we give you vegetation, you give us metal, and then we can. Maybe it's more like that.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was fun, and I'm glad I've watched it again.
I give it a 6.
In other circumstances, maybe like a.
If I'd have spread it out more as I normally do, maybe I'd have enjoyed it more. Maybe I'd have taken it in more. I found K9 really annoying in it, and
That's a shame.
yeah, and I found elements of it just quite, like I say, the whole pit thing. I found I found bits like that frustrating, and I think because I struggled to follow it properly, like really get into it, follow it. That's why those things stuck out to me more. Sometimes you can get away with it if the storyline's really strong and you're really in it. Like we've had it before where something's happened, I'm like, but I don't mind that because I can forgive it because the rest of the story's been so strong. I can forgive something not lining up. Whereas this, the pit was such a crucial element. I was like, and I was just so like, well, like they're carrying it in. Like, how have they got in here? Like, what? I don't know. I just don't feel I was into it enough.
What are you thinking of Romana now? You've had a couple of her stories. I mean, we are halfway through the season.
All right. I don't not like her. She's different to the other one. She reminds me a bit of Vicky.
I mean, she had that moment with the bandits where she's like, I'm a time lady and...
Yeah. I don't find her as like, yeah, that was it. So that felt very first Romana, and you don't get as much of that. That's sort of like, I know who I am, my knowledge, and it feels more companion-y than Time Lordy, which is probably why I feel I'm hiccuping, sorry. There's elements of Vicky, because Vicky was quite bullshit, and she's quite a bullshit, and I think that comes from like her knowledge, her intelligence, and who she is, i.e. a Time Lord.
I mean, I like last week's City of Death more, but this is better than the Dalek one.
I agree with that.
Okay. Well, there we are. Creature from the Pit. Done. Well, the next is 4 parts.
Okay.
And it's called Nightmare of Eden.
Oh, that feels like it's going to be very green as well.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's
I haven't
it.
got anything else to say this week.
No, same. Where can you find us, Mark?
Well, you can find us at 2watchwho on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for everyone that's been in touch. Oh, yes, and we're on YouTube as well. Forgot about that. And you can also support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho. And we will see you next week for Nightmare of Eden.
To watch who?